Hardcore survival sim Road to Vostok has secured its production budget for years and years to come after a successful early access launch on Steam this week. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to celebrate yet another survival sim on Steam. But it's indie.
Yeah, this one's got a feel-good story behind it. You can root for it. But yes, yet again, we're on Steam playing games where we're fumbling around in the dark and getting shot by enemies we didn't see. It's weird how Steam users really love a particular kind of game, huh?
Yeah, they really do. Road to Vostok is the latest indie darling to find success on Steam. The passion project from solo Finnish dev Antti Laininen launched into early access earlier this week, proving that there are still people that want to play new versions of DayZ.
Yeah, and there's still people playing DayZ, so it's all right. But this game is single player, so that's got a different flavor on it. At the time of writing, the game is ranked 16th on the sales charts according to SteamDB, nestled right in between pretty heavy hitters like Ark Raiders and Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, that's great. Resident Evil 4 is on discount too. That's the reason it's so far up there. Finnish pride is strong, with the game ranking second on the Finnish sales charts, as spotted by Rock Paper Shotgun as well.
Love it out there, the Finnish pride. I did see one of the comments on the early access launch was that it was a huge accomplishment for a Finn to talk about their own work with pride and accomplishment for 20 solid minutes. So congratulations.
That's really funny. Laininen celebrated the game's success in an X post, calling 24 hours after launch absolutely insane.
He continued on, quote, Road to Vostok is currently top seller in many countries, front page on Steam, and with very positive rating.
We're very happy for you, by the way, Antti. That's amazing. This level of success for a solo dev has, quote, secured the entire production budget for this game for years and years to come.
Yes, and here's where I think it takes an interesting turn. So this is only possible, really, because Laininen says in his early access launch video that over the course of developing the game for the last 4 years, he's turned down multiple publishing deals that would have earned him a life-changing amount of money.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay.
There's no publishers, there's no revenue share deals, there's no investors, there's no loans. I own everything 100%. So this means that if this game makes some money, I can put all the potential game revenue back to the development and get this major development boost.
All right. Laininen says this situation is actually really unique for a game in early access, and that most studios' revenues are diluted, meaning that any income has to be divided and paid out to investors rather than being put fully back into game development. He's right.
Yes, that stuff's really fascinating to me. And if you ever wonder how a game can sell a lot and all that money just disappears, this is how. It's because they had to borrow money to get it to that point, and then when they launch it, God willing, they get back up to like water level and then just start sinking again. So I guess because he was able to keep this project fully solo funded, I mean, he does have some contractors. He talked about that in terms of scaling up the game. But yeah, because he chose to keep it all under his power, basically. Now he can put all that money right back into the game versus paying back a bunch of creditors.
That's great. On a possibly connected topic, Laininen also acknowledges that early access survival sims have been shady in the past.
Yes, they don't quite have the best reputation, do they? To potentially convince you that he's bought into this project, he explained that he walked away from his guaranteed retirement in his Finnish military career to become a game developer and make this game. So he explains that he's very dedicated to it. He thinks it's a cool game, so if he's willing to stake his retirement and his future on it, you can rest assured it's probably not an investment scheme.
I would agree. Laininen announced a follow-up video in the next few months to discuss the game's financials and the experience launching the game. There's also a shelter decorating contest being run on the game's Discord server. You can win a big old military backpack, so that's fun.
Yeah, think about all the stuff you can put in that backpack. Cans of peaches, corn, rocks, all the fun things you could pick up in Road to Vostok. Yeah. Oh, and if you're curious about the game itself, I guess we haven't really talked about that very much. It's a single player, ultra hardcore, kind of almost ultra obsessive DayZ. That kind of goes hand in hand with these games.
Yeah, you have to manually load magazines with the right bullets, then load the right clip into the right gun. It's Tarkov. This is what Tarkov really has popularized. But it's all single player, which is super cool.
Yeah. There's a free demo on Steam, but the early access has more features and stuff like that. There's also a development roadmap, both in the game and on the Road to Vostok website. So congratulations on the early access launch. Seems like everything's going swimmingly. You love to find a niche game find an enthusiastic audience and for everyone to kind of celebrate it. And that seems like what we have here. One of the things that kind of captivated me about this game, you know, it's got the feel-good story behind it and all that, but it seems like it's sort of the exact opposite of what everyone seems pretty exhausted with in games right now. Games that are diluted, either financially or creatively. So this is a game from a single dev with a strong, maybe borderline obsessive vision, delivering something unique and catering to a very uncatered to crowd. Well, it's weird to say that. There's plenty of hardcore survival sims out there, but ones that are sort of made with a genuine intent and not just maybe a DayZ knockoff. So I can see why this game is captivating a lot of people, and I frankly find a lot of hope in projects like this. I don't think that necessarily the solo devs are meant to be out there killing themselves and getting no sleep for years and years just to make an early access game with a shred of soul and heart. But the fact that they still exist and they're still coming means that, you know, we haven't been completely overrun with thoughtless robotic AI churning out identical looking games just yet. So, you know, the future is bright. And this is why I think for the past 3 or 4 years, we've always been espousing PC as the platform where all the action is. A game like this may not look very exciting from a traditional console perspective. You know, you don't really have Spider-Man flipping through a building as it's falling over. But this is kind of where the soul of gaming is, and at least it's still alive, you know? You
know, interestingly, we talked about this yesterday on yesterday's episode about how I would love to know the behind-the-scenes stories of game dev, of you know, sort of how a game is made. Road to Vostok, by the way, hearing his story and hearing him talk about the fact that he is fully indie, no investors, all this stuff, I hope Antti realizes that that's really important for other game devs to do, and so that it's our job and Antti's job to tell other game devs, say this stuff out loud. Say the fact that you didn't take any publishing deals and that this is fully you, only you, like you are in charge of this whole thing. That's a big deal because there are people out there on Steam that love video games so much that they want to just support you. They do, even if the game isn't good. And Road to Vostok, by all accounts, is actually very, very good. But even if it's not a very good game, people still want to support you as an indie game dev. And this is something that I've run across a lot. I have a few people in my community on Twitch that actually are game devs, and they make games on Steam, and they've come on and been like, this is just a thing I made. And I am so excited to talk about it and so excited to show it off on a Twitch stream because it's just them. And I think that's the coolest thing in the world. Obviously, there's no AI, like Lawrence said. Oh, thank God, right? Like, we don't have to deal with any of that. And then there's no huge publisher that we're all worried about, like EA's getting bought up by the Saudis and, you know, like that kind of stuff. We don't have to worry about any of that. It's just one guy making Road to Vostok. It's a fun game and it's just him. So whatever money he makes goes to him, and then he can either take it and leave or he can make another game. Either way is fine with me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of reminded of Dean Hall. You know, he got a lot of investment, kind of split his attentions a little bit. Kind of moved away from just neurotically developing one single game. You know, there's a lot of paths out here in this world. I'm reminded of when we reported on Ashes of Creation and how the leader of that project said very, very similar things years and years and years before. Suddenly now there's creditors and publishers involved. So everything's fine as long as the money's there, which I don't know. I don't know how much of this depended on, because I've only ever been American. But sometimes hearing people talk like that, where they're like, I quit my career, I worked on this for 4 years. Sometimes I think, man, it must be nice to have universal health care, where you don't have to worry about like any kind of illness just knocking you out of the game entirely along this path. As long as you can keep yourself fed and housed, you're fine. Yeah, in the United States, we're sort of expected to have more of a safety net for ourselves. And I don't know that necessarily encourages entrepreneurship on this level. But that's a failing of our society. I would sure love it for everyone here to be able to pursue their passion projects as well.
I completely agree. I'm glad you brought that up, because the fact that he's in Finland, that helps a lot. That helps a lot for him to be an indie game dev. And I'm also glad you brought up Dean Hall, because it's funny, I was just diving in to Rocketworks, his studio. And Dean Hall's been working on, obviously he was, helped start DayZ, basically invented it. And he started his own game studio called Rocketworks, and it's like an indie publishing studio. And the reason I was looking into it is because I was looking into Kitten Space Agency. I don't know if you would know what Kitten Space Agency is, but it's a spiritual sequel to Kerbal Space Program. because Kerbal Space Program 2, again, one of those games that got bought up by a bunch of big publishers. It was a bad game at early access. Now it's shut down entirely. What Dean Hall did was take some developers from Kerbal Space Program 2, bring them over to Rocketworks and say, all right, make the game you want to make, and we'll just put it out as indie. And they're calling it Kitten Space Agency. You can actually download it for free. I did. And I was playing it and stuff like that. And I was like looking into this because it was so cool. This is such a cool story that I was like, man, I would love to support Kitten Space Agency because they pulled away from those huge publishers and all the money grubbers. And now there's just a free game that you can hop into that's very similar to Kerbal Space Program. So it's very exciting on the PC platform, on Steam especially, but just generally speaking for indie game devs, I like talking about these stories because we get to talk to you about them and sort of evangelize the whole story.
Yeah, evangelism is kind of the whole thing. That's one of the reasons that I kind of harnessed on Road to Vostok, because we got to root for our independent creators, right? We fancy ourselves that. I guess we are that. And kind of like everyone out there, we only get to do what we do because of you. So thank you very much for choosing to watch Inside Games today. We really appreciate your support, whether that's your time or maybe recommending this show to a friend or family member or something like that. And hey, if you're feeling extra supportive, maybe take a gander at our Patreon over there. We post all our content there for free. We also post daily memes, so free daily memes. What a better way to start your day. On that note, though, we'd like to shout out some Patreon supporters. So thank you very much. Overly Sarcastic Productions, Nick Calderon, Scotty Ryan, Ati, and James Breyer for being sweeter than a room temperature can of pears that we found all the way in the back of the cabinet.